and I manage the Cheesiest truck. We sell perfect grilled cheese sandwiches.
The name of my company is called the Tamale Spaceship. Our theme is we're going to provide great food with a little bit of fun.
My food truck was the duck and roll truck, and I used to sell Asian-style banh mi sandwiches and rice bowls on there.
We have chicken tinga, al pastor, la tejana, and for platters we have alambres, which is like a Mexico City specialty.
This is basically our company on wheels. We're all entrepreneurs and small businesses. We just want to provide consumers more opportunities to have different types of food.
They provide like a really friendly, really fast, on-the-go kind of service. It's nice to just come out, be able to get something to eat.
I realized that food trucks don't have it as easy as I thought they did. I thought they could pull up to any curb and serve any customer who was willing to pay for it, and that's far from the truth.
If you get caught parked too close to a restaurant now, it can be a $2,000 fine. Yeah, it could put somebody out of business,
I'd like to be able to have the freedom to sell wherever we'd like and not have the restrictions that we have right now.
We are not criminals, we're not bad people, we're not out trying to mess up anybody's business.
They treat us almost like a second-class citizens. We're going to make your life impossible, so hopefully you'll be out of business in a year.
It blows my mind that you would restrict somebody that wants to make food and feed people.
Mobile food vending has been around since ancient Greece. They sold, fried fish on the street. Here in Chicago, I would say the food truck industry really started probably in 2010. There's over 100 food trucks. Most of them can only prepare food in kitchens, pre-package them individually, and then sell them straight off the truck as is.
Back in the day when we started it in 2010, legally we couldn't really sell you a traditional Mexican dish. So what we did is we took a traditional Mexican dish and we made it into a tamal. Basically, this is our kitchen. Everything is happening right now. We're planning to make about 1,000 tamales today, and we're going to prepare some moles tonight and some other fillings as well.
Last year they passed an ordinance in Chicago that says you are finally allowed to cook on trucks, so we are one of the first, I would say 20 or so cook on board trucks. And it requires the standard things that you need to operate a restaurant. So you need a sanitation license, you need health inspections, obviously, and then on top of that, since you have a truck, you need to get it inspected by the truck on a year-to-year basis by the fire department.
We want to regulate for safety, regulate for quality, but if we're over-regulating it, we're going to see people moving out of the market. I'm Alderman John Arena, 45th Ward, Chicago. What I want to do is help support small business in the city of Chicago. These are entrepreneurs, they gestate businesses. A lot of them have actually converted into brick and mortar businesses. So they could be a great tool to encourage people to get into the food service industry and be successful.
Chicago's been difficult because they've viewed food trucks as competition to the restaurants. My name is Erica Harford. My title is Assistant Director of the Institute for Justice Clinic on Entrepreneurship. And we advocate for change to laws that have become so burdensome that it's difficult for businesses to operate here in the city of Chicago. Mobile food vendors have found the laws can virtually obstruct them completely from being able to operate a business successfully. One of the major frustrations is that they're treated like criminals rather than as productive members of the society who are creating jobs at a time when we desperately need jobs.
Who's getting your French fries ready?
Food trucks have rules and regulations that really make no sense. Food trucks can't park wherever they want to park here in Chicago. They have to park over 200 feet away from anywhere that serves prepared food or drink. That includes anywhere from a really fancy pants white-tablecloth restaurant to a gas station.
There's like restaurants everywhere. There's some even restaurants you wouldn't even know are there, but they're there. And if some cop knows that it's there, he can use that against you. It's like, there's a main entrance right there. It's within 200 feet. Here's a $2,000 fine. Have a nice day.
It didn't make sense to me that a health violation was $250 and a food truck violation was $2,000 for parking 200 feet from a brick and mortar restaurant.
I never understood why it's a $2,000 fine in a teeny tiny food truck.
It's a much higher fine than if they caught me picking up meat from the floor and serving it to people. So it shows where their priorities are at.
I mean, you really think about it, there are some food trucks that $2,000, that might be the full week of income, you know.
Food trucks are limited to be in a certain spot for 2 hours.
So they have to oftentimes spend half an hour setting up, half an hour shutting down, which leaves them very little time to serve their food before they have to pack up and move to another location.
Our selling time is tiny, and let's say you get kicked out of a spot, now you're like flustered, like where do I go? Where do I go? I have very little time to find a spot.
The ordinance requires them to have a GPS system on board, which is a monthly fee.
We've heard food truck operators say that it's like having to wear an electronic ankle bracelet.
For some reason, they need to know where am I 24/7, and I just don't understand that. I never did. It just really made me feel like I was, you know, some sort of a house arrest or something like that.
I feel like I'm a drug dealer sometimes. Like I'm watching out for cops. You know, I shouldn't have to, you know, be worried constantly about police. I'm just selling food.
Very first time I ever got a food truck citation ticket was my first week after I launched the truck, and then from that point on, it was this constant look over my shoulder every time I parked, come out with the measuring tape to make sure I was 200 feet. Or it was constant paranoia. I felt like I was a drug dealer.
The city doesn't have a very efficient process to get these trucks licensed and built so that they can pass the licensing process.
It could take months, and years to get licenses. I've had people say that, you know, no matter how hard they try, they've never been able to get a license.
They just can't get a clear read on what they need to build.
That you have to go to City Hall every week and you bring all this paperwork, and they will say, oh no, you know, this is not what you need something else. And every week, I mean, it was going on for a while.
I can't imagine the frustration that they must feel when they follow the law exactly to its specifications and then are denied for a reason that seems to come out of absolutely thin air.
To me, it really was going through hell. It was just, you know, going through hell, and there was no way back for me. I already make a huge investment.
If you do know somebody within City Hall or within business affairs that can help expedite your licensing process, it helps. But unfortunately, if you don't have any of those connections, you get kind of caught up in all the red tape and paperwork.
Many of the restrictions that are placed on trucks are strictly anti-competitive.
We have restaurant next to restaurant next to restaurant, but a food truck serving food now can't compete with those restaurants.
Imagine if the city passed a law that said a restaurant couldn't open within 200 feet of another restaurant. I would say one of the dirty little secrets about licensing laws is that consumers rarely, if ever, want them. It's existing industry insiders who lobby for these laws, and they do it because it's a way of protecting their turf and keeping competitors out.
This ordinance was written by a lobbying group for the brick and mortar restaurants. They were in the room when it was written. They lobbied very hard. They testified.
And in fact, there are members of City Council who own restaurants themselves and were not eager to open up the law to food trucks.
It's about how much power and how much influence you have in the city that gets you anywhere. So somebody that's just a small entrepreneur that doesn't have connections or the money may not get very far.
Ultimately, consumers are the ones who are hurt by that because they end up paying higher prices and having fewer options.
I, as a consumer, should be able to choose where I spend my money come lunchtime. If a food truck or a restaurant goes out of business, it should be because their food wasn't good, not because the city decided where they got to serve their food.
You know, capitalism is about the best product wins, the best service wins.
I'm having the caprese sandwich. Me too.
If you can have two sandwich shops next to each other, one of them's going to do better than the other, then that's the way it works. And the same thing happens when it's a food truck versus a brick and mortar.
The trucks bring people out of their homes into the community, increase the foot traffic, and that's good for a number of businesses, not just the trucks themselves.
Food trucks serve great food that is a welcome departure from kind of the typical lunch options you have around.
I think it's delicious. I like the variety. I like the fact that you get pizza and tacos, and there's some health, there's vegan, there's Jamaican food. There's like a great variety.
jerk chicken, rib tips, pepper steaks, oxtail, catfish.
I'm happy that we have food trucks here. It's nice to have choices, so I'm all for it.
Entrepreneurship and small businesses are where our economy is generated. Everything that's done in this country is funded by 70% of businesses that are under 500 employees, and many, many of those are under 25 employees.
So when I had the food truck, it was a small operation. It was myself and one other part-time person. And now at the restaurant, I employ about 5 to 6 people.
When we started, it was just me and my business partner. Now I have a crew of 5 people, so I'm also contributing. I'm a source of jobs, you know.
They want to be able to cook on board. They want to be able to park in legal parking space.
If the city would get rid of that parking restrictions, I think it would be a lot easier for us because it really limits to where we can go to make a good living.
I'd like to be able to have the opportunity to pull up in a legal parking spot on a metered downtown location, pull my truck up and sell.
If they just put a food truck zone in a high traffic area, it'd be fantastic.
This should be a conversation about how do we generate business in Chicago? How do we generate small businesses in Chicago? That's where our economy's going to be the strongest, and entrepreneurs should not be told through ordinance that we don't want you here.
We all have a lot of appreciation for how courageous it is to step out and start a business where it's all on you as an individual to really have the vision to make that happen.
We need to reform it, and we need to allow open competition, and that's where we're best as a country.